Useless. That's what you are, Evelyn. A 70-year-old burden who can't even pour her own coffee without spilling it. Her words sliced through me sharper than any knife I'd ever held in my kitchen. It wasn't whispered. It wasn't said in anger behind closed doors. No, my daughter-in-law, Ashley, declared it loud enough for everyone in the diner to hear. The birthday cake sat untouched in front of me, candles still burning wax dripping onto the frosting, while the rest of the family shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It was my 70th birthday. 70 years of building a family, paying bills with trembling hands, sacrificing new shoes for school books, working double shifts at the nursing home, just so my son could go to college. And here I was, sitting in a booth on Main Street at Miller's Diner with strangers, watching my cheeks on fire, because Ashley wanted the world to know she considered me useless. A man in a red flannel 2 booths down set down his fork, staring at me, then at her. An older woman at the counter whispered, "How could she say that to her mother-in-law?" But Ashley smirked, satisfied with the silence she commanded. My son Daniel didn't even look at me. He kept stirring his coffee spoon, clinking against the mug like a nervous metronome. He didn't defend me. He didn't speak up. And in that silence, my heart cracked in a way it never had before. 70 years old, Ashley went on, folding her manicured hands across her chest. No savings, no house of your own, living off Social Security checks and expecting us to pick up the rest. "Tell me, what exactly do you bring to this family besides medical bills?" Her words were poison dripping into every ear at that diner. I wanted to disappear into the vinyl booth, to melt away into the coffee-stained floor. My granddaughter Lily, just 15, looked between us with wide eyes. She bit her lip, as if trying to find courage to say something, but Ashley's presence crushed her into silence. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat thick as cement. I thought of the $420 electric bill I'd paid last winter out of my own pocket when Daniel claimed he couldn't. I thought of the $5,000 I'd given him from my late husband's life insurance so he could fix his truck. Useless I had bled for this family. But in that moment, no one would have known it. The waitress, Maria, came by with shaky hands, setting down a pot of coffee. She leaned in close enough to whisper, "You don't deserve this, honey." That whisper was a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone saw me as disposable. But Ashley caught it. "Don't pity her," she snapped at Maria. "This is her party. She should face the truth." My jaw tightened. My fingers gripped the silver cross pendant my late husband Robert had given me the night before he died. I wanted to scream, to slam my fists on the table to remind her who I was. But my voice betrayed me, shaking when I finally spoke. Why are you doing this to me, Ashley?" Her laugh was cruel. "Because you need to hear it. You're nothing but dead weight, Evelyn. Daniel and I can't move forward with our lives dragging you around. The only thing you're good for now is signing over whatever scraps of property you've got left." There it was. The dagger slid clean between my ribs, not just humiliation, but the reason behind it. Property. Assets, money. She wasn't mocking me because I was clumsy or old. She was reminding me in front of a room full of strangers that to her I was nothing more than a wallet she hadn't finished emptying. The candles sputtered out one by one until only smoke curled into the tense air. My granddaughter finally whispered, "Grandma," but Ashley shot her a glare that silenced her. "Go on," Ashley pressed, leaning across the table, eyes glittering like ice. "Tell everyone what you're worth, Evelyn. Tell them what you have left." I sat frozen, staring at the flickering smoke, my mind racing. Worth. What was I worth to Ashley? Nothing. To Daniel, apparently silence. To Lily, maybe still something, but too small to speak against the storm. And yet, inside my purse, beneath the folded napkins and coupons, was a single sealed envelope. Thick paper. My name written in my husband's handwriting. I'd almost forgotten it until that moment. The last letter he had ever given me. I hadn't opened it in years. I didn't know why. Maybe fear, maybe hope. I felt it there now like a heartbeat. Ashley's voice echoed again. "You're useless, Evelyn. Admit it." But the envelope in my purse told me otherwise. And that was the moment I decided I wouldn't break. Not tonight. Not on my 70th birthday. Because Ashley had no idea that the word useless would be the last word she'd ever dare say to me without choking on regret. My name is Evelyn Parker, and until that night at the diner, I never once thought of myself as useless. Poor maybe. Lonely at times, but useless, never. I was born in 1954 in a small town outside Cleveland. My father worked at the steel mill, my mother stitched clothes for neighbors to make ends meet. I grew up knowing the weight of a dollar, what it meant to stretch a pound of ground beef into 4 dinners. By the time I was 17, I was bussing tables at the same diner where I'd later sit, humiliated by my own daughter-in-law. Life has a funny way of circling back. I married Robert Parker when I was 21. He wasn't rich, but he was honest. He worked as a mechanic, his hands always stained with grease, but his eyes lit up every time he looked at me. We raised one son, Daniel, in a little 2-bedroom house with peeling paint and a porch swing that creaked louder every summer. We didn't have vacations to Disney World or fancy dinners at steakhouses. What we had was sacrifice. When Daniel was 10, Robert fell off a ladder at work and crushed his hip. Suddenly, I became the breadwinner. I took double shifts at Rosewood Nursing Home, wiping brows, changing sheets, holding the hands of the dying, while my own back screamed from lifting too many bodies. Nights blurred into mornings, and still I showed up. Because Daniel needed new cleats for Little League, because the electric bill was due, because pride doesn't put food on the table, work does. I remember one winter, 1987, the furnace went out. The repairman said it would cost $320 to fix. We didn't have $320. So Robert and I slept in coats, blankets piled high, while Daniel got the only space heater in his room. He never knew. Kids shouldn't. That was our job as parents, to carry the cold so he could stay warm. Robert died in 2005. Heart attack. Quick. The kind of quick that steals the air out of a room and never gives it back. I remember sitting on the porch swing that night, cross pendant in my hand, staring at the stars and wondering what in God's name I was supposed to do without him. Daniel was in college then. Tuition bills stacked higher than the mailbox could hold. I took out a loan. I cashed the last of Robert's life insurance, $15,000, just so Daniel wouldn't have to drop out. That's the kind of mother I was. That's the kind of woman I am. And yet at 70, I sat in that diner booth while my son let his wife call me useless. Do you know what it feels like to give someone your youth, your strength, your sleep, your savings, only to watch them throw it back in your face? It's like drowning while the person you raised stands on the shore holding the rope and choosing not to throw it. But here's the thing. I am not weak. My body is slower, sure knees that ache when it rains, fingers stiff when I try to crochet. But my mind, my heart still sharp, still burning. People forget that about older women. They think once you pass 60, you're some background character in life's play waiting quietly for the curtain to fall. They don't see the years of fire still inside you. Ashley never knew the woman who scrubbed floors until her knuckles bled, who sold her wedding ring once to pay for Daniel's textbooks. She only knew the Evelyn who forgot where she put her glasses sometimes, who struggled with online banking, who asked too many questions at the grocery checkout. To her, that's all I was, but I know myself. And I know this: when someone pushes me to the edge, I don't fall. I fight. Quietly, maybe, but I fight. That night, sitting in that booth, I caught Lily's eyes, my granddaughter, 15 years old, braces still shining under the dim diner light. She looked at me like I was something worth defending, even if she didn't yet have the courage to do it. And in her gaze, I remembered something important. I wasn't just Evelyn Parker, 70 years old, useless. I was the keeper of this family's story, the foundation it stood on, and no amount of Ashley's cruelty could erase that. What Ashley didn't know, what Daniel had forgotten, was that Robert left more behind than his greasy work boots and that creaky porch swing. He left me something nobody else knew about. Something I had carried in silence for years, folded neatly inside that envelope in my purse. I hadn't opened it because I was afraid of what it might say, afraid it might be nothing more than goodbye. But with every cruel word Ashley spat, I felt the weight of that envelope growing heavier, like it was pulsing with life, begging to be revealed. I wasn't ready yet. Not that night. But I could feel it the day would come when Ashley's smirk would shatter, when Daniel's silence would cost him everything, when Lily would stand taller because she had seen her grandmother fight back. The clock on the diner wall ticked, hands moving slow, while my life story flashed behind my eyes. The bills, the sacrifices, the winters, the funerals, the laughter, the losses. And I thought, if they really think I am useless, then they have no idea what's about to come. Because even at 70, I am far from finished. The candles on my cake had already burned down to stubs, smoke curling toward the yellowed ceiling of Miller's diner. The room smelled faintly of coffee, fried onions, and melted wax. 70 years of my life sat there in front of me, but nobody seemed interested in celebrating it. Daniel shifted uncomfortably beside Ashley, eyes glued to the coffee cup in front of him. He hadn't looked me in the eyes once since she started her tirade. My son. The boy I once held through fevers. The young man I once stayed up all night praying for when he missed curfew. Sitting there now stirring his coffee like a stranger who wished he hadn't come at all. Ashley, though, thrived in the attention. She leaned back against the booth's cracked vinyl seat, her designer purse tucked neatly by her side, nails clicking against the glass of soda she hadn't touched. "You know what the real problem is, Daniel?" she said loudly enough for the entire diner to hear. "Your mother refuses to accept reality. We're not rich. We can't keep taking care of her bills. She doesn't contribute. She just takes." A hush fell over the place. Even the jukebox in the corner seemed to falter as her words filled the air. My hands shook around the fork I still held. "Ashley, this is neither the time nor the place," I said softly, my voice carrying more desperation than authority. "Oh, but it is," Ashley snapped back, her eyes narrowing. "What better time than now? Everyone's here. Your son, your granddaughter, and half this town sitting in booths watching you get older by the second. Shouldn't they all know what kind of woman you really are? Someone who bleeds us dry and calls it family love." The woman at the counter, the one who had whispered before, let out a quiet gasp. I heard silverware clatter on plates, the sound of people shifting uncomfortably. No one spoke, though. No one dared. Daniel finally cleared his throat. "Ashley, maybe?" She cut him off with a flick of her hand. "No, Daniel, enough excuses. She doesn't need coddling. She needs the truth." Then she turned her gaze on me again, sharp as broken glass. "Do you know what Daniel and I had to do last month because of you? We had to cancel our anniversary trip to Florida because we had to cover your medication. Do you know how humiliating it is for me to tell my friends I can't travel because my 70-year-old mother-in-law still can't manage her own expenses?" Her words struck like blows. My cheeks burned. I glanced at Lily, who sat silently biting her lip until it almost bled. She looked like she wanted to disappear under the table. I forced a breath past the knot in my throat. "Ashley, I never asked you for that money. I told Daniel I could." "You told Daniel nothing," she snapped. "You always pretend you'll figure it out, but then somehow it's our savings that vanish. Your Social Security check doesn't cover half of what you cost. And what do you give back? Nothing. You don't even cook. You can't clean. You sit in that little apartment and expect us to keep everything afloat. And for what? So you can keep pretending you're still the matriarch of this family." The words matriarch of this family stung. I had been the glue for decades, the one who kept birthdays celebrated, the one who scraped together money for Christmas gifts, the one who stood in the hospital waiting room when Daniel's appendix burst. And here she was, erasing it all with one cruel speech. Maria, the waitress, finally spoke up. "Ma'am, maybe this isn't the time. It's her birthday." Ashley's head snapped around, her eyes narrowing. "Stay out of this. This is family business." But it wasn't just family business anymore. Everyone in that diner was part of it, now silent witnesses to my public unraveling. One man near the window, maybe in his 70s too, muttered under his breath, "Shameful?" He shook his head, but he didn't stand up. Nobody did. Ashley leaned forward again, lowering her voice just enough to make it more venomous. "The truth is, Evelyn, you're a relic, a useless relic. And unless you finally admit that and sign over that house to Daniel, the one in your name, the one Robert left you, then you'll keep dragging us all down until there's nothing left. Is that really how you want to be remembered?" There it was again. The real motive. My house. A modest 2-bedroom bungalow worth maybe $320,000 at best. But to Ashley, it might as well have been a castle. To her, it wasn't about care or family. It was about ownership. Control. The birthday cake sat untouched, frosting starting to melt under the heat of the candles. Lily reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it gently. Her small act of defiance against the storm gave me just enough strength to sit taller. "I don't think this is the way to handle it," Daniel mumbled, his eyes still on his coffee, but his voice carried no conviction. Ashley smirked. "Of course you don't. That's why you've always been weak with her. You've let her walk all over you. But not anymore. Not with me here." For the first time, I felt something flicker inside me, not just shame or sadness, but a quiet anger, a reminder that I wasn't useless. I wasn't some relic. I was Evelyn Parker. And if Ashley thought she could strip me of dignity in front of strangers, she had no idea what I was capable of when cornered. I didn't know it then, but the envelope in my purse, Robert's last letter, would change everything. For now, though, I let Ashley gloat, because sometimes the best revenge begins with silence. Ashley's voice carried through the diner like a loudspeaker, each word heavy with venom, each phrase designed not just to hurt, but to annihilate. The silverware clattered again as someone 2 booths over dropped their fork, unable to look away from the spectacle unfolding. "You know what bothers me most, Evelyn?" Ashley sneered, leaning across the table so her perfume invaded my space. "It's not just that you're broke. It's not just that you've got nothing left to offer. It's that you still sit there like you matter, like you deserve respect. Newsflash, you don't." My throat burned. My fingers dug into the worn leather of my purse, desperate for some anchor. The birthday cake in front of me had started to sag, frosting sliding, as the heat from the candles melted it into a sad puddle. 70 years of my life symbolized by a cake nobody wanted to cut. "Don't you think it's pathetic?" Ashley went on, her voice rising, "that your own son can't even rely on you, that instead of being a blessing, you're a curse on this family. You can't even take care of yourself. You're like a parasite we keep feeding because you won't let go." The word parasite hit me like a slap. I gasped, and before I could stop myself, whispered, "That's not true." Ashley laughed. It was cruel and sharp, echoing against the diner's linoleum floors. "Not true, really. Then explain this: who paid for your prescriptions last month? Who paid your water bill when you forgot? Who covers the groceries half the time because your Social Security check disappears the second it arrives? Do you even know how much you cost us?" She turned to Daniel with a mocking grin. "What was it last year? Over $12,000 between rent bills and medical costs. Tell her, Daniel." My son looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. He muttered something under his breath, but the damage was already done. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Ashley smirked at their silence. "Exactly. 12 grand. Do you know what we could have done with 12 grand, Evelyn? We could have paid off the car. We could have taken Lily somewhere other than this crummy town for once. But no, we had to waste it keeping you afloat." "Enough," I whispered, but she only leaned in closer. "No, it's not enough," she said. "Not until you understand. You are dead weight. You are an anchor around our necks, and the sooner you sign over that house to Daniel, the sooner we'll all be free of this burden. Until then, you're nothing more than a squatter in our lives." The word squatter sent heat rushing to my face. My chest heaved with each shallow breath. People were watching, strangers, neighbors, people who would whisper about this night long after it ended. My humiliation wasn't private anymore. It was a show. Maria, the waitress, tried again. "Ashley, please. She's your family. It's her birthday." Ashley snapped her fingers at her. "I said stay out of it. She's not family. She's an obligation. There's a difference." For the first time, Lily's voice rang out, trembling but brave. "Stop it, Mom." The diner went silent. Every head turned. Ashley whipped her head around, her face darkening. "What did you just say to me?" Lily's voice cracked, but she didn't back down. "I said stop. She's my grandma. You can't talk to her like that." A hush fell over the booth. For one flickering second, I felt warmth flood my chest. Someone had stood up for me, not Daniel, not the strangers, but my granddaughter, who still saw me as more than useless. Ashley's face twisted, equal parts fury and disbelief. "Sit down, Lily. You don't know what you're talking about. But Lily held my hand tighter under the table. I know she doesn't deserve this, Ashley laughed bitterly. Oh, perfect. The teenager thinks she knows everything now. Let me make it clear, Evelyn, your time is up. No more pretending you're in charge. No more holding on to things that don't belong to you. From this day forward, that house is ours whether you sign it or not. And if you don't like it, she leaned back, lips curling into a smile. Well, maybe it's time we looked into a nursing home. Somewhere you can sit around being useless with people just like you. The diner gasped in unison. The word nursing home hung in the air like smoke from a fire. My heart thudded painfully. I clutched the silver cross at my neck, whispering a silent prayer to Robert. Give me strength. Please give me strength. Ashley sat back, smugly satisfied she had gutted me in front of everyone. Daniel still didn't move, didn't defend me. His silence roared louder than Ashley's words, and for the first time in my 70 years, I felt truly invisible. I lowered my eyes to the sagging birthday cake wax pooling at its base. Happy birthday to me, I whispered under my breath, though nobody heard it. But deep inside, beneath the humiliation and the sting of Ashley's words, something hard and unyielding stirred. Something she didn't see. Something Daniel had forgotten. Something Lily believed in. Because she was wrong. My time wasn't up. Not yet. Ashley wasn't finished. She had tasted blood and she wanted the whole room to watch me bleed. You think this little show is about me being cruel? She said, flipping her long hair over her shoulder. No, it's about accountability. Evelyn has been leeching off us for years, and tonight everyone gets to see it. She can't even afford her own prescriptions without us stepping in. And you know what I'm done. Done paying, done pretending. From now on, it's our rules, Evelyn. Her voice cracked like a whip across my back. Daniel sat there, lips pressed together, eyes glued to his coffee. My son, my flesh and blood. Not once did he raise his voice to defend me. His silence was worse than Ashley's cruelty. Every second he let her speak, I could feel the bond between us disintegrating. Ashley slammed her palm flat against the table, rattling the silverware. That house your husband left you, the bungalow on Birch Street, it's worth over $300,000. You're sitting on it while we struggle to pay our own mortgage. That's not fair. You don't deserve it. You can't even mow the lawn or fix the plumbing. You're wasting it. Sign it over to Daniel now, and maybe we'll let you stay in the spare room. Otherwise, pack your things. The diner gasped again. My heart lurched. That house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was where Robert and I raised Daniel. It was where we marked Lily's height on the kitchen doorway every year. It was where Robert had taken his last breath holding my hand. That house was my life. I won't, I whispered. Ashley's lips curled. Excuse me, I won't sign it over. She laughed, the sound brittle and cruel. Oh, you think you have a choice? You think you can hold on to it forever? Newsflash, the taxes are overdue. You think we don't know? We've seen the letters. One wrong step, one missed payment, and that house will be gone anyway. At least if you give it to Daniel, it stays in the family. Otherwise, you'll lose it to the government. Is that what you want? To end up homeless. Her words struck deep because part of it was true. The property taxes had gone up last year, and I'd struggled to keep up. More than once, I'd stared at the bill in panic. But hearing Ashley use it as a weapon, twisting my fear into ammunition, made me sick to my stomach. I have paid every bill that mattered, I said, my voice trembling. Ashley snorted. With what? Your charity checks don't make me laugh. Face it, Evelyn, you're not just useless. You're reckless. You're dragging this whole family down with you. Maria, the waitress, hovered near the counter, torn between stepping in and keeping her job. Her eyes met mine, full of pity. The man in the red flannel shook his head again, muttering something about shame. But no one stopped it. No one stopped her. Then Ashley delivered the final blow. She leaned close enough that I could smell the sweetness of her soda on her breath, her voice low but sharp enough to cut bone. If you don't cooperate, I'll make sure you're out of that house within the month. And if it takes putting you in a nursing home, so be it. Daniel and I are done being your keepers. Lily gasped, her small hand clutching mine tighter. You can't, she whispered, her voice breaking. Ashley turned to her daughter, eyes like daggers. Watch me. For a moment, the diner was silent except for the faint hiss of the grill and the ticking of the clock on the wall. The humiliation pressed down on me like a mountain. My chest ached. My face burned. My entire life felt reduced to a balance sheet Ashley was determined to erase me from. I glanced at Daniel one last time, praying he would say something, anything. But all he managed was a weak sigh, eyes still fixed on his coffee, as if the dark liquid held more importance than his mother's dignity. Something inside me shattered. I wasn't just Evelyn Parker, widow, 70 years old, a woman with aching knees and thinning hair. I was a mother stripped bare in front of her child, a grandmother mocked in front of strangers, a woman threatened with losing the last place on earth that still felt like home. And yet in that crushing moment, a new thought pushed through the despair, like a weed through concrete. They think I'm powerless. They think I've got nothing left. Let them believe it. Let them dig their own graves with their greed. The envelope in my purse seemed to pulse against my side heavier than ever. Robert's final words sealed away all these years waiting for the right moment. I didn't know what it contained, but I knew it was my last shield. Ashley sat back, smugly satisfied with the carnage she had created. That's it, Evelyn. Admit it to everyone here. You're done. Your time is over. Sign it or lose everything. I looked around the diner at the strangers who would tell this story tomorrow, at Maria, whose hands trembled as she wiped the counter, at Lily, whose eyes shone with unshed tears, but also with something else, belief. I took a shaky breath, pressed my lips together, and whispered almost to myself, "We'll see." Ashley frowned. "What did you say?" But I didn't repeat it, because though I had never felt so broken, so cornered, I also knew one thing: this was not the end of my story. Not yet. That night after the diner emptied and the last whispers of Ashley's cruelty still rang in my ears, I sat alone at my kitchen table. The little bungalow on Birch Street creaked the way old houses do, pipes moaning wind rattling the thin windows. I'd never felt it so hollow before. I stared at the birthday balloons Lily had tied to a chair. One had already deflated, sagging to the floor like my own spirit. 70 years alive, and I'd never felt smaller. But when the quiet settled, memories came rushing in, like they always did when I thought I couldn't go on. I remembered Robert standing in our first apartment with a box fan in the window, laughing as he told me we'd never need air conditioning because his love was enough to keep me cool. I remembered holding Daniel as a baby, rocking him through nights of colic until my arms went numb, whispering lullabies off-key because I was too tired to care. And I remembered the sacrifices. In 1989, Daniel wanted a Commodore computer, the kind all the other kids had. Robert and I couldn't afford it. I sold my mother's wedding ring to buy it. My mother had worn that ring through wars and storms, but I let it go because my son's smile meant more. In 1997, when Daniel wanted to attend state university tuition, nearly crushed us. Robert and I worked ourselves raw. I cleaned motel rooms in the mornings, folded laundry for the nursing home in the afternoons, and worked the register at the grocery on weekends. Robert picked up side jobs fixing cars until his hands cracked and bled. We sent Daniel off to college debt-free, though it left us nearly penniless. And in 2005, when Robert's heart gave out, I didn't fall apart, not in front of Daniel. I stood tall at the funeral, holding Daniel's hand, assuring him I'd be fine. I hid in the bathroom at night to sob into towels so he wouldn't hear. I carried this family, every winter, every bill, every missed meal, every scar on my back from working double shifts. I was the glue, the backbone, the silent soldier, and yet Ashley had the gall to call me useless. I traced my fingers along the edge of the silver cross around my neck. Robert's cross, the one he gave me on our 25th wedding anniversary. He'd said, "Evelyn, this will always remind you that you are stronger than you know." The envelope lay on the table in front of me now, thick yellowed paper, Robert's handwriting on the front for Evelyn open when the time is right. How many times had I thought about tearing it open after his funeral, after Daniel's wedding, after the day Ashley moved into my house with her smug smile and her expensive perfume. But each time I told myself, not yet, not until I really need it. Was this the time? My heart pounded just looking at it. I closed my eyes and Robert's voice filled my mind. He always used to say, Don't show your hand too soon. People who underestimate you give you the best advantage. Ashley underestimated me. Daniel had forgotten who I was, and maybe that was my strength. I took a shaky breath, stood up, and walked through the bungalow. Every corner was filled with ghosts of my life. The dent in the wall where Daniel had thrown a baseball indoors. The patch of floorboards that creaked extra loud where Robert used to sneak into the kitchen at midnight for pie. The quilt folded over the couch stitched by my own mother's hands. This wasn't just a house. It was proof of my life, proof of my worth, and I would not let Ashley take it. I sat back at the table, palms flat against the wood. I wasn't useless. I wasn't a parasite. I wasn't a squatter. I was Evelyn Parker, the woman who had carried this family through hell and high water. Ashley thought humiliation had broken me. What she didn't realize was that humiliation had lit a fire in me, a fire I hadn't felt in years. The diner had been my lowest point, yes, but in that low I remembered everything I had survived, and compared to burying my husband, compared to nights with no heat, compared to watching bills pile up higher than my hope Ashley's cruelty was nothing. I opened my eyes and stared at the envelope. Not yet, I thought. Not tonight, but soon. Very soon, because Robert hadn't just left me memories, he had left me power. And when the time came, Ashley would choke on every cruel word she'd ever thrown my way. I whispered into the quiet house as if Robert could hear me still, "Thank you for believing in me." They don't know yet, but they will. The wind rattled the windows again, but this time I didn't feel hollow. I felt ready. The envelope sat on the table like a living thing, heavy with the weight of years. I had carried it in my purse through weddings, funerals, graduations, grocery store trips, even to that diner on my 70th birthday where Ashley tried to break me in half. And still, it remained sealed. I reached for it that night, my fingers trembling. The paper had yellowed with age edges, curled, but Robert's handwriting was as steady as ever, for Evelyn open when the time is right. Was this the right time? God knew I was at the bottom of the well. Ashley had made sure of that. Her words still clung to me like smoke, useless parasite squatter nursing home. But my husband had always believed timing mattered. He wasn't a man of many words, but when he spoke, he meant every syllable. If he had written when the time is right, then it meant there was something in here meant to change everything. I held my breath and slid my thumb under the flap. Inside was not just a letter, but something thicker. Several folded documents. My pulse quickened. I pulled them out slowly, laying them flat on the table. The first was a note written in Robert's firm, blocky handwriting. "Evelyn, if you are reading this, it means I couldn't protect you myself. But I want you to know you are not alone. You have more than you realize. You always have. Don't let anyone make you feel small. The truth is bigger than they can imagine." My throat tightened. My hands shook as I unfolded the second paper. It was stamped with the name of a law firm downtown. Legal language filled the page, dense and unreadable at first glance. But one phrase jumped out, "Last will and testament." I blinked. Robert's will. But we had already gone through his will back in 2005, hadn't we? Daniel had been there. The lawyer had read it. The bungalow went to me, his savings went to me, and that was it. Modest, simple. Nothing shocking, nothing like this. Then I noticed the date. It wasn't the will we'd read in 2005. This was signed later, 2 months before Robert died. I pressed my palm against the paper, heart hammering. Why hadn't anyone mentioned this? Why had I never seen it? Had Robert kept it secret? I kept reading, eyes racing over the lines until I froze. Robert hadn't just left me the bungalow. He hadn't just left me his savings account. He had left me everything. Every account, every asset, every insurance policy, even a certificate of deposit I'd never heard of. The total was staggering, more than $1.2 million spread across accounts and investments. Money he had never told me about, hidden away in places I didn't know existed. I sank back in my chair, the air rushing out of me. $1.2 million. My knees felt weak even though I was sitting down. The last line of the will made my eyes sting with tears, and to my beloved Evelyn, I leave not just my possessions, but my trust. She knows what to do. She always has. I pressed the paper to my chest and let out a sob. Robert had seen me. He had believed in me, and he had protected me even from the grave. For years I had lived like a pauper, scraping by, ashamed of every overdue bill, every late-night call from creditors. And all this time, Robert's secret safety net had been waiting. But then the weight of reality crashed down again. Nobody else knew. Not Daniel, not Ashley. To them, I was still the useless old woman with nothing. And maybe, just maybe, that was an advantage. I wiped my tears and forced myself to breathe. Carefully, I refolded the will and tucked it back into the envelope. Not yet. The time wasn't right to show it. Not until they had dug their own graves so deep they couldn't climb out. The next morning, I carried the envelope to the small safe in my bedroom closet, the one Ashley mocked me for still locking, calling it Grandma Paranoia. I slid it inside, shut the door, and turned the dial. The click echoed like a promise. Later that day, Lily came over, slipping away from her mother's scolding voice. She sat at my kitchen table, biting her lip. "Grandma," she whispered, "are you okay?" I looked at her. Really looked. Her wide eyes, her trembling hands. She had defended me at the diner. She had dared to speak when even Daniel hadn't. She deserved to know. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "sometimes people think they know the whole story, but they don't. And one day soon, you'll see that your grandma isn't as helpless as she looks." Her eyes brightened just a little. "You mean, you're going to fight back?" I smiled a real smile this time. "Yes, Lily, I am." And as the words left my lips, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. For the next week, I kept my head down. Ashley thought she had won. She strutted around the bungalow like she already owned it, dropping comments about where she'd put a new kitchen island, how the walls would look better in gray, how the backyard could finally be useful if Daniel built her a deck. Every word was meant to remind me that my days here were numbered. I didn't argue. I didn't snap back. I nodded, offered coffee, and stayed quiet. If Ashley saw my silence as surrender, so be it. I had learned a long time ago that the quietest people in the room are often the ones who know something others don't. When Daniel came by to check on me, he avoided my eyes. He mumbled about bills, about how Ashley was only looking out for the family. I listened, hands folded in my lap, though my heart ached. This was the boy I had raised to be kind, the man I had sacrificed everything for, and here he was letting his wife strip me bare. But I said nothing. I only offered him pie and kissed his cheek as he left. Let him think I was harmless. But behind closed doors, I began to prepare. I dug through the old filing cabinet in my bedroom, pulling out every scrap of paper Robert had left me. Insurance statements, tax forms, letters from the bank. I made neat stacks on the table, my glasses slipping down my nose, my hands shaking but determined. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became. Robert hadn't just left me that will. He had left a trail, investments in places I didn't know existed, quiet accounts that Ashley would never dream of. Each night when Ashley thought I was asleep in my recliner, I locked my bedroom door and read. I studied every line of Robert's hidden will until I could recite it from memory. And then I started making phone calls. The first was to the law firm named in the document. My voice trembled as I gave my name, expecting confusion, maybe even dismissal. Instead, the receptionist said, "Yes, Mrs. Parker, we've been expecting you. The lawyer who handled your husband's file is still with us. Would you like to set an appointment expecting me?" My breath caught. Robert had planned this. "Yes," I said firmly. "Yes, I would." The second call was to the bank listed on one of the certificates of deposit. The manager on the other end paused when I gave my husband's name. "Ah, yes," he said carefully. "That account is still active, Mrs. Parker. You'll need to come in with identification to confirm access." I hung up the phone with shaking hands. My husband hadn't just left me money. He had left me a map, and every step on that map brought me closer to freedom. But I told no one. Not Daniel, not Ashley, not even Lily. Not yet. Instead, I played my role. One evening, Ashley cornered me in the kitchen while Daniel was upstairs. "You know," she said smugly, pouring herself a glass of wine, "you should be grateful. Most people your age would kill to have a family taking care of them. Nursing homes cost a fortune, and here you are getting to live rent-free while we carry you." I forced a weak smile. "You're right, Ashley. I'm lucky." Her smirk widened. She clinked her glass against the counter like a victory bell. Inside, I wanted to laugh, because she had no idea just how wrong she was. That night, I took the envelope out of the safe again. I read Robert's words one more time. "She knows what to do. She always has." I whispered to the quiet room. "Yes, Robert, I do." But I wasn't reckless. Timing mattered. Ashley's arrogance was her greatest weakness, and I would use it. I needed her to push harder to dig her claws in deeper until the whole town could see her greed for what it was. Only then would my reveal mean something. So I waited. The following Sunday, Daniel announced a family meeting at their house. Ashley grinned as she delivered the invitation. "It's about time we put things in writing," she said, her tone dripping with triumph. I accepted with a polite nod, though my pulse quickened. This was it. The stage was setting itself. That night, Lily called me from her bedroom, whispering, so her mother wouldn't hear. "Grandma, are you okay? You don't sound like yourself." I smiled into the phone. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Don't worry about me." But Lily hesitated. "I don't want them to hurt you." My throat tightened. "They won't. Trust me, Lily, they won't." As I hung up the phone, I realized something. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. Ashley thought she had me cornered. Daniel thought I was too weak to fight back. Even the strangers at the diner thought I was defeated. But they were all wrong. Because I had the will. I had the proof. And soon, very soon, they would all learn the one thing Ashley never imagined possible. Evelyn Parker was not useless. She was dangerous. The following Sunday, I put on my best navy blue dress, the one Robert always said brought out my eyes, and walked slowly up the front steps of Daniel and Ashley's two-story house. The air was thick heavy with the smell of freshly cut grass and Ashley's roses that never seemed to bloom no matter how much she bragged about them. Ashley opened the door before I could knock. She wore a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Well, look who showed up," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "Come in, Evelyn. We've been waiting." Her words echoed Robert's last letter. "We've been waiting for you." But this wasn't the same. This wasn't anticipation of love. It was the setup of a trap. Inside, Daniel sat stiffly at the dining table, a stack of papers in front of him. Lily was tucked in the corner, earbuds dangling from her ears, pretending not to listen, but watching everything with wide, worried eyes. Ashley gestured grandly toward the head of the table. "Sit down, Evelyn. Tonight we're going to settle things once and for all." I sat my hands folded neatly in my lap. The smell of roast beef still lingered from their dinner, but the plates had already been cleared. The table now looked less like a family gathering and more like a boardroom. Ashley slid the stack of papers toward me. "This is a transfer agreement," she said smoothly. "It just makes things easier for everyone. You sign this, the house on Birch Street becomes Daniel's property, and we can take over the mortgage taxes and maintenance. You won't have to worry about a thing. We'll let you stay, of course, in the spare room for now, but the burden will finally be lifted." I glanced at Daniel. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look at me. He just nodded like a child following instructions. My fingers hovered over the papers, trembling. Ashley's eyes glittered with triumph. "Go on," she urged. "It's just a signature, that's all." For a long moment, I didn't speak. The room was so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall, each second stretching out like a hammer against my ribs. Finally, I whispered, "And if I don't?" Ashley's smile widened. "Then we'll do this the hard way. We'll petition the court for guardianship. Daniel can prove you're incapable of managing your finances. It won't be hard. We have the receipts, the overdue bills, the medical records. Do you really want a judge telling you where you'll live for the rest of your life? Because I guarantee you it won't be Birch Street." Her words sank into me like ice water. Guardianship, nursing homes, courtrooms. I could see the whole picture, Ashley standing tall, Daniel silent strangers in black robes deciding my future as if I were already gone. Lily ripped out one earbud, her voice trembling. "Mom, stop. This isn't right." Ashley turned on her daughter with a glare. "Not now, Lily. This doesn't concern you." "It does." Lily shot back. She's my grandma. You can't just take everything from her." Ashley's jaw clenched. "Go to your room." But Lily stayed rooted to her chair, eyes shining with anger. For the first time, I saw not just the little girl who used to braid my hair on Sunday afternoons, but a young woman finding her voice. I wanted to hug her to thank her, but I couldn't break the moment. My role was clear. Stay quiet, stay small, let Ashley dig the hole deeper. Ashley shoved the pen toward me. "Sign it, Evelyn. Do the smart thing. Don't drag this family into court. Don't embarrass yourself more than you already have." The humiliation from the diner replayed in my mind, her voice calling me useless, parasite squatter. The stranger's stares. Daniel's silence. And now, here I was, again cornered, stripped of dignity in front of my own blood, but beneath it all, the envelope in my purse burned against my side, heavy with power. Robert's will, Robert's words. She knows what to do. She always has. I picked up the pen. My hand shook. Ashley leaned forward eagerly, eyes glittering. Daniel exhaled like the weight was finally being lifted, but instead of signing, I set the pen back down. "No," I said softly. Ashley blinked. What I said, no. The room froze. Ashley's smile cracked. "Don't be ridiculous, Evelyn. You don't have a choice." I met her gaze steady for the first time. "I always have a choice." Her face twisted. "Fine. Then we'll see you in court. And believe me, once the judge sees the evidence, you'll lose everything." I folded my hands again, my voice calm. "Maybe. But maybe not." Ashley slammed her hands on the table. "You think you can outsmart me? You think you can outsmart us?" I didn't flinch. I only glanced at Lily, whose eyes widened as if she could sense something was about to change. Ashley leaned closer, her voice a hiss. "Mark my words, Evelyn. By next month, that house will be ours, and you'll be nothing but a guest in it, a guest who overstayed her welcome." I let her words hang in the air, let her savor her victory, because what she didn't know was that the real meeting, the one that would decide everything, was still to come. And when it did, Ashley's smirk would vanish forever. The week after that meeting, Ashley strutted around town as if the house were already hers. I heard from Maria at the diner that she'd been bragging to her friends, telling them they'd be renovating our Birch Street place before summer. The humiliation still burned in my chest, but beneath it a quiet flame had grown. Because I knew something she didn't. On a gray Thursday morning, I walked into Lawson & Keene, the law firm whose name was on Robert's secret will. The receptionist's eyes lit up when I gave my name, Mrs. Parker. "Please wait just a moment. Mr. Keene will see you now." A tall man with salt and pepper hair appeared, shaking my hand firmly. "Evelyn Parker, I've been waiting a long time to meet you." I frowned. "Waiting?" He nodded. "Your husband left very specific instructions. He knew you'd come when the time was right." The words sent a shiver down my spine. Robert had known. He had planned this. We sat down in his office, papers spread neatly across a mahogany desk. Mr. Keene opened a file, and there it was again. Robert's handwriting, Robert's signature, Robert's final testament. "This will was filed with us 2 months before your husband passed," he explained. "It supersedes the earlier one your family read. You are the sole beneficiary. Every asset, every account, every property all under your name. The total value at current calculations is just over $123 million. My breath caught. Hearing it out loud made it real. Mr. Keene leaned closer. "Do you wish to enforce it, Mrs. Parker?" I thought of Ashley's smirk, of Daniel's silence, of Lily's trembling hand in mine. "Yes," I said, my voice firm. "It's time." Sunday evening, the family gathered again at Daniel and Ashley's house. This time I didn't come alone. I walked in with Mr. Keene, his briefcase in hand, his presence filling the room with quiet authority. Ashley raised an eyebrow. "What's this? Evelyn, did you hire a babysitter to walk you through signing forms?" She laughed sharp and cruel. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Lily's eyes darted from me to the lawyer, curiosity sparking. Mr. Keene set his briefcase on the table and spoke calmly. "Mrs. Parker asked me here because there seems to be some confusion about property and inheritance. I'm here to clear that up." Ashley scoffed. "Confusion? There's no confusion. She has a house, she can't manage it, and she's giving it to us. End of story." On the contrary, Mr. Keene said, flipping open the briefcase. He pulled out a thick envelope stamped with the law firm's seal. This is the last will and testament of Robert Parker, dated 2 months before his passing, filed legally signed in front of witnesses and binding under Ohio law. It names Evelyn Parker as the sole heir to all of Robert Parker's assets, totaling over $1.3 million. The room went silent. Ashley blinked. That's impossible. We already read the will. It said... That was an older version, Mr. Keene interrupted smoothly. This is the updated document. It supersedes all previous versions, which means every penny, every account, every property belongs to Evelyn Parker. Exclusively. Daniel's coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Ashley's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a fish gasping for air. No, that can't be right. That house should be Daniel's. We're his family. We deserve it. Mr. Keene's voice sharpened. Legally, you deserve nothing. Your husband left everything to his wife, and his wife has every right to keep it, sell it, or will it to whomever she chooses. You have no claim. Ashley's face turned crimson. She spun toward Daniel. Say something. Tell him this is a mistake. Daniel's lips trembled. He looked at me for the first time in weeks, his voice barely above a whisper. Mom, is this true? I held his gaze, my back straight, my voice steady. It's true. Your father trusted me. He believed in me. And while you stood by and let your wife humiliate me, he made sure I'd never be at anyone's mercy again. Lily gasped softly, her eyes wide with awe. Ashley pounded the table with her fist. This isn't fair. You can't just... I interrupted, my voice stronger than I thought possible. And I will, because Robert knew what you never did, Ashley. He knew I am not useless. He knew I built this family from the ground up, and he knew that when the time came, I would stand up for myself. Her face twisted with rage. You selfish old enough. Mr. Keene's voice cut like thunder. I suggest you choose your words carefully, Mrs. Parker. Any further attempts to intimidate or harass Evelyn could be considered elder abuse, which carries serious legal consequences. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ashley's eyes darted around the room, desperate for someone to back her up. Daniel remained frozen, his silence now an indictment. Lily looked at me with shining pride, and I felt it for the first time in years. I wasn't the one shrinking in shame. Ashley was. I leaned forward, my voice low but clear. You wanted to strip me of everything, Ashley. But instead, I've taken back what's mine. And now, you'll live with the truth. The house, the money, the future, all of it belongs to me. Ashley's mouth opened again, but no sound came out. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. I stood smoothing my navy blue dress. Happy, belated birthday to me. Ashley's face was a storm of red. Her lips trembled, her perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table as if searching for a way to claw back control. But there was none. The lawyer's words hung in the air, undeniable, unshakable. Lily broke the silence first. I knew it, she whispered, a smile tugging at her lips. I knew you weren't useless, Grandma. Her words sliced Ashley deeper than anything I could have said. Ashley rounded on her daughter. Don't you dare take her side. But Mr. Keene cut her off sharply. Careful, Mrs. Parker. You're already treading dangerous ground. Any attempt to bully or coerce Evelyn from here forward will be documented and, if necessary, taken to court. Ashley's mouth snapped shut. Daniel, however, looked like a man unraveling. His face had gone pale. His shoulders slumped. He ran a trembling hand through his hair and finally croaked, Mom, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you say anything about this money? I met his gaze evenly. Because it wasn't for you to use against me. Your father trusted me. He left it all in my name because he believed I'd know when to use it. And now I do. He swallowed hard shame flickering across his features. But he said nothing. Ashley, on the other hand, wasn't done fighting. She slammed her palms against the table. This is outrageous. That money should have been ours. We've supported you for years. Paid your bills, covered your expenses. I straightened in my chair. No. You lorded those expenses over me like weapons. You humiliated me in public. You threatened to throw me into a nursing home. That wasn't support. That was control. And now that control is gone." The color drained from her face. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I shook my head slowly. "No, Ashley, you'll regret underestimating me." Mr. Keene slid another document across the table. "Mrs. Parker has also instructed me to update her estate plan. Effective immediately. Daniel, you and your wife are excluded from any future inheritance. The bulk of her estate will be placed in trust for Lily." Ashley's chair screeched against the hardwood floor as she bolted upright. What Lily's eyes widened. For me, I turned to her, my expression softening. "Yes, sweetheart, for you. Because you were the only one brave enough to stand up for me when it mattered." Ashley's voice cracked like broken glass. "You can't do this." But Keene's tone was calm, clinical, final. "Legally, she can. She already has." Daniel buried his face in his hands. Ashley stormed toward the kitchen, muttering under her breath, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the sound of Lily's quiet laugh, a laugh filled with relief, pride, and something like triumph. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You see, Lily, the truth always wins. It might take time. It might hurt along the way, but it always wins." Daniel finally lifted his head, his voice hoarse. "Mom, I'm sorry." For a moment, I almost softened. He was still my son. The boy I raised, the man I sacrificed for. But then I remembered the diner, the silence, the way he let Ashley spit venom into my face while he stirred his coffee. "Sorry doesn't erase silence," I said quietly. "When you should have defended me, you chose her over me, and now you live with that choice." His eyes glistened, but he didn't argue. Maybe finally he understood. Ashley reappeared in the doorway, her face tight with fury. She clutched her purse to her side like a shield. "This isn't over," she spat. "You'll regret crossing me." But even as she said it, her voice lacked the power it once carried. The tables had turned, and she knew it. I stood smoothing my navy blue dress, my back straight. "Actually, Ashley, it is over. You wanted me humiliated. Instead, you humiliated yourself. And now you'll spend the rest of your life knowing that the woman you called useless held all the power." Her mouth opened, then closed again. No words came. I walked to the door, Lily following close behind. The evening air was cool against my cheeks, the sky painted in streaks of gold and purple. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Behind me, Ashley's voice rang out one last time, shrill and desperate. "This isn't fair. I didn't even turn back." Fairness has nothing to do with it. Respect does. And that's something you never gave me. The door slammed shut, and with it, the weight on my shoulders lifted. Lily slipped her arm through mine as we walked down the path. "Grandma," she asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart, you were amazing." I smiled, my eyes stinging with tears. "No, Lily, I was just myself. Something your mother forgot I could be." We reached the car, and as Mr. Keene placed his briefcase in the trunk, he gave me a small nod. "Well done, Mrs. Parker. Robert would be proud." I looked up at the fading sky and whispered just loud enough for the heavens to hear, "I hope so." That night, I sat once more at my old kitchen table in the bungalow on Birch Street. The same house Ashley had tried to steal from me, the same walls she had called wasted space. The lamps cast a warm glow across the wooden floor, and for the first time in years, the house didn't feel small or shabby. It felt alive. The documents were back in the safe, the lawyer's briefcase gone, the storm of Ashley's rage silenced behind someone else's closed door. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the creak of the old porch swing filled the air. I poured myself a cup of tea, hands steady for once. The steam rose gently, curling like Robert's laughter used to curl through these halls. 70 years. I thought about the word Ashley had thrown at me, useless. It had nearly crushed me that night in the diner. For a while, I almost believed her, that maybe I really had nothing left to offer, that maybe my worth had faded with my youth, my strength, my husband's passing. But tonight proved something else. Useless, no. I had survived more than she ever would. I had raised a son, carried a family, built a life from scraps. I had endured winters with empty cupboards, summers with broken fans, nights when the bills stacked higher than hope and I had kept going. That isn't useless. That is power. Ashley's cruelty had nearly convinced me to forget it, but Robert hadn't forgotten. His will, his letter, his trust in me, it was all a reminder that the world underestimates women like me. Older women, quiet women, mothers and grandmothers who seem small in the eyes of the young but carry oceans inside them. I set my teacup down and glanced toward the window. The roses in the front yard swayed in the night breeze. Robert used to joke that those roses were stubborn blooming late, holding their beauty long after the neighbors' flowers had faded. Maybe that was me too. Still here, still standing, still blooming even when others called me finished. The phone rang, breaking the silence. It was Lily, Grandma. Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Yes, sweetheart, I wanted to say thank you for standing up, for showing me that you don't have to let people treat you badly no matter who they are." Tears stung my eyes. "Oh, Lily, you don't ever need to thank me. Just remember it. Remember that your worth isn't measured by what others give you or take from you. It's measured by what you know you carry inside." She was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, "I love you." "I love you too," I said. And when I hung up, the house felt even warmer. I leaned back in my chair and let the quiet surround me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the weight of humiliation or fear pressing on my chest. Instead, I felt something else. Peace. I knew Ashley wouldn't give up easily. People like her rarely do. She'd claw and fight and whisper behind closed doors, but none of it mattered anymore. She had lost the one thing she couldn't replace: control over me. Daniel. I didn't know if he'd ever come around. Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. That was his road to walk. My door would always be open, but my dignity would never again be left at the threshold. I picked up Robert's letter one last time and whispered into the empty kitchen, "You were right, my love. I did know what to do, and I always will." The clock ticked softly on the wall. The cross at my neck caught the light shining faintly, a reminder of faith, not just in God, but in myself. Tomorrow life would go on. Bills would still come. My knees would still ache. I'd still forget where I set down my glasses. But none of that mattered, because tonight I had reclaimed something Ashley could never touch: my worth. And that, I realized, was the real gift of turning 70. Not the cake, not the candles, not the hollow words of family who saw me as a burden. The gift was the clarity to finally say, "I don't need your approval. I don't need your permission. I don't need your pity. I only need respect." The tea cooled beside me, untouched. I sat in the quiet glow of the bungalow, the house that was still mine, the legacy Robert had left the future Lily would one day inherit. And I smiled, small, steady, unshakable, because useless women don't change the ending of their own story. But I just had.